My name is Claire Donovan, and until the day my dog dug up a secret in our backyard, I believe my mother-in-law, my husband Ethan's mother, Margaret, was strict, but never malicious. She criticized how I folded laundry. She complained about how I seasoned chicken. She believed no woman was good enough for her only son. But I never believed she would try to destroy my marriage, not until Rex uncovered the truth with his own paws. It happened on a bright, calm Sunday morning. Ethan was preparing for a long shift at the firehouse, and I was making coffee while our German shepherd, Rex, lay stretched across the kitchen tiles, soaking in the early sun. Just as Ethan stepped out the door, a sharp voice echoed across the yard. "Claire, are you outside?" I closed my eyes for a second. Margaret. Before I could answer, she let herself through the side gate. She never waited for permission, and marched into the yard with her usual clipped, self-important stride. Rex immediately lifted his head, not wagging, not friendly, just alert. Margaret didn't notice, or she pretended not to. "Claire," she began without greeting, "we have a problem." My stomach tightened. With Margaret, problem usually meant blame. "What's wrong?" I asked. She crossed her arms dramatically. $3,000 is missing from the family maintenance fund, and since you're the one who manages the house expenses—" Her eyes narrowed. "I want to know where the money is." I froze. "What? I never touched that account." "Well," she cut in, "someone did." Rex stood up slowly and stepped between us, positioning himself right in front of my legs. It startled me. He had always been neutral around her, never affectionate, but never defensive, not until now. I put a hand on his back. "Margaret, if money is missing, we should check with the bank or with Ethan. I didn't take anything." She scoffed. "That's convenient." My jaw tightened, but before I could respond, Rex's ears shot up. His nose pointed toward the backyard. Then, in an instant, he bolted across the grass. "Rex!" I called. "What are you doing?" Margaret frowned. "That dog is untrained, completely untrained." But he wasn't acting wild. He was acting focused, hyper-focused. He sprinted to the large oak tree at the center of the yard, the same tree Margaret constantly called our family legacy tree. Rex sniffed around the base, then started digging, hard. Dirt flew everywhere. "What on earth?" I gasped, running to him. "Rex, stop!" He didn't stop. He dug deeper and deeper and deeper until his paw hit something solid. Thunk. He froze, then carefully dragged something out of the earth, wrapped in a plastic bag. An envelope. A thick envelope. My pulse kicked into my throat. I crouched and picked it up with shaking hands. Margaret stepped closer, impatience turning to confusion. "What is that?" I peeled back the dirty plastic and uncovered the envelope. It was labeled in dark marker, "Household Cash," to Margaret. Signed, Ethan, except Ethan didn't sign his name like that. His signature has smooth curves. The one on the envelope was sharp, rushed, forced. My breath caught. This was a setup, a fake envelope, filled with cash, with a forged signature, and buried in our backyard. Margaret's eyes widened, just for a fraction of a second, before she composed herself. I don't know what this is." But Rex growled, low, direct, pointing right at her. Margaret stepped backward. "Claire, I would never—" But she stopped, because even she could see the truth. She had planned to find this envelope. She had planned to accuse me. She had planned everything, except one thing. Rex found it first. And now the lie was exposed too soon. For several seconds, Margaret didn't say a word. She stared at the envelope like it was a snake ready to strike, frozen, stiff, too quiet. Rex remained planted between us, shoulders tense, tail straight, fur bristling along his spine. He wasn't barking, he was warning. "Margaret," I said softly, "why was this buried in our yard?" She blinked, swallowing hard. I don't know. Maybe Ethan put it there for safekeeping." I stared at her. Under a tree, wrapped in plastic, in our backyard? She flinched, barely, but enough. Rex growled. Her eyes snapped toward him. "That dog? He's unstable." "No," I replied, voice firm. "He's reacting to something." Margaret's lips quivered. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked nervous. "All right," she said sharply. "Give it to me." Her hand shot out. Rex immediately bared his teeth, stepping forward. She yanked her hand back in fear. "What is wrong with him?" I stood straighter. "Maybe he knows this isn't yours." Her face twisted. Before she could respond, I heard a car roll into the driveway. Ethan? Perfect timing or worse timing? I wasn't sure. Moments later, he pushed through the gate into the yard. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, still wearing his firehouse uniform. "I thought you two were—" He stopped when he saw the dug-up dirt, the envelope in my hand, Margaret's pale face, Rex standing guard like a soldier. Ethan frowned. "Claire? What is that?" I handed him the envelope silently. His eyes scanned the label. He froze, then shot a confused look at his mother. "Mom? What is this?" Margaret straightened, pulling her composure back like armor. "Oh, thank God you're here," she said dramatically. "Your dog went crazy. He dug up this thing," she pointed at me, "and Claire thinks I buried it. Can you believe that?" Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Why would Claire think that?" "Because she's emotional and pregnant and—" "She's not pregnant," Ethan said flatly. "And you know that." Margaret's face stiffened. Then Ethan turned to me. "Claire, why do you think my mom buried this?" I swallowed hard. "Because it's fake, Ethan. Your signature is forged. You don't write like this." Ethan examined the signature. His eyes widened. "Yeah, that's definitely not mine." Margaret blurted, "Maybe the bank wrote it." Ethan stared at her. "Mom, why would a bank write a handwritten envelope labeled household cash with my name on it?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. Rex barked once, loud, as if calling her bluff. Ethan's expression hardened. "Mom, did you bury this?" "I did not!" she snapped instantly, then a beat. "I mean, why would I?" Ethan's voice dropped. "To accuse Claire." Margaret gasped, pressing a hand dramatically to her chest. "How dare you? I raised you better than to take her side." Ethan stepped forward. "I'm not taking sides. I just want the truth." Margaret's voice rose. "Fine, fine. Maybe someone else put it there. Maybe your neighbors. Maybe Claire did it herself." My jaw dropped. "Excuse me?" She pointed at me like an accusation. "Maybe she stole the money and buried it because she panicked," Rex erupted, a deafening, visceral bark that made Margaret stumble backward. Ethan grabbed Rex's collar gently. "Easy, boy, easy." But Rex wasn't being aggressive. He was being honest. He knew who was lying. Margaret suddenly stiffened. Her eyes darted toward the far corner of the yard, toward the small wooden fence line behind the shed. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Rex saw it. His head snapped in the same direction. He growled. I frowned. "Rex, what is it?" He took off, sprinting full speed toward the fence. "Rex!" I ran after him. He sniffed the base of the fence, pawing at the soil, whining with frustration. "What's back there?" I whispered. Ethan kneeled beside me. "There's nothing behind this fence except the empty lot." But Rex disagreed. He sniffed again, deeper, and began clawing at the dirt. Margaret shouted from across the yard, panic rising in her voice. "Stop that dog! Now!" Ethan and I looked at her in unison. She froze. Too late. Rex unearthed something small, a shiny object wrapped in a thin plastic grocery bag. I crouched and picked it up. Inside was a gold bracelet, a very expensive one that Margaret had reported stolen 3 weeks earlier, the same day she accused me of being careless around her belongings. My hands trembled. "Ethan," I whispered, holding up the bracelet. "This is yours, Mom, isn't it?" Margaret's face drained of color. The truth wasn't buried anymore. It was clawed into the light by a dog who never dug anything up in his life. She stammered, voice breaking. "Claire, I can explain," but she couldn't, because Rex wasn't done yet. He suddenly jerked left, toward the shed. His bark thundered across the yard. Ethan whispered, "What else is he finding?" Margaret whispered something too, barely audible, barely controlled. "Oh God, no." For a moment, everything was silent. Margaret stood frozen, hands trembling, face pale as chalk. Ethan stared at the gold bracelet in my hand like it was a ghost. Rex broke the silence first. He barked sharply and sprinted toward the shed again, nose low, body tense, paws kicking up dirt as he circled the far corner. Ethan whispered, "Mom, why does Rex keep finding things that belong to you?" Margaret swallowed. I don't know. That bracelet must have fallen behind our fence," I replied, "wrapped in plastic, buried 6 inches underground." She didn't answer. Rex kept sniffing, pacing, turning his head sharply like he was following a scent trail, the same scent he picked up when he dug up the envelope. Something in the earth, something that belonged to Margaret, something she put there. Ethan approached her. "Mom, what did you do?" Margaret shook her head, stepping backward. "I didn't do anything. I'm being framed. Your dog is making me look guilty," Rex growled, and even Ethan didn't believe her anymore. Rex suddenly stopped beside the shed. He lowered his head, sniffed one precise spot, then began to dig again, faster this time, more urgently. I felt my stomach twist. What is he going to find? Ethan knelt beside Rex, brushing dirt aside. Then, his hand hit something, a small metal tin, rusty, old, but out of place, like it hadn't been buried long. Ethan opened it carefully. Inside were a pair of diamond earrings, a folded receipt for 1,150, a handwritten note that said, "Check Claire's drawers." My hands went cold. Those earrings, the ones Margaret claimed I must have misplaced, the ones she swore she saw in my bedroom, the ones she said were sentimentally priceless. They were right here, buried, in our yard. Ethan's face hardened, voice shaking with betrayal and disbelief. "Mom, these are yours. Why are they buried on our property?" Margaret stumbled backward, trying to steady her breathing. That's impossible. Someone must have planted them to make me look..." "Like what?" Ethan snapped. "Like someone who frames my wife every time something goes missing?" Margaret's voice cracked. "I have never framed her," Rex barked, sharp, accusing. Margaret flinched. I stepped closer, holding the tin. "This isn't the first time this has happened, Margaret. Every time something went missing, you blame me. Every single time." She squeezed her eyes shut. "As a mother, I just wanted you to be..." "A thief?" I cried. "You wanted your son to think I was stealing from his family?" Her lip trembled. "I just wanted to protect Ethan. He's all I have." "And I'm his wife," I said. "Why destroy us?" Her voice dropped to a tortured whisper. "Because he was slipping away. You took him from me." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Mom, that's not true." She pointed at me, tears streaming now. "Ever since he married you, he stopped calling me as much, stopped coming over, stopped letting me manage his finances, stopped letting me organize his files. You stole my son." I stepped back in shock. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about the bracelet. This was about control, twisted, obsessive control. Margaret sobbed. "I thought if you looked irresponsible, careless, untrustworthy, Ethan would see that he married the wrong woman, that he needed to lean on me again." My heart thudded painfully. "You tried to break my marriage by planting evidence, by burying fake cash, by hiding your own jewelry in my house." She sank to her knees. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I panicked." Ethan shook his head slowly, voice breaking. "Mom, this is sick. You need help." But Margaret's eyes suddenly sharpened with fear. No, please, you don't understand." She looked toward the shed. She wasn't looking at us. She was looking at what Rex was sniffing next. She whispered, "Please, God, don't let him find the last one." Ethan froze. "The last what?" But she didn't answer. Her breathing sped up. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Rex had already switched directions. He circled the left side of the shed, nose low, sniffing heavily, then digging again, harder, faster, more desperate. Margaret screamed, "Stop him, please!" Ethan grabbed her arm. "Mom, what is he going to find?" She collapsed into the dirt, sobbing, clutching handfuls of soil. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just didn't think Claire deserved." "Deserved what?" I shouted. Rex let out a deep, violent bark. Ethan and I rushed over. Rex stepped back, paws muddy, breath heavy, staring at something half buried, a small black velvet pouch. I pulled it out with trembling hands. Inside was a wedding ring. A man's wedding ring, one I hadn't seen in a year. My breath caught. "Ethan, isn't this—" He stared at it in horror. "My father's ring." Margaret let out a wail, raw, terrified. Ethan whispered, "He lost this the day he died." Margaret finally broke. She screamed, "I hid it before he died. I hid it so he couldn't give it to you, Ethan." The world tilted. "You," Ethan stuttered. "You took Dad's ring from him? Why?" Her voice cracked into madness. "Because he wanted you to give it to Claire. He said she was the best thing to happen to you. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't lose you too." Ethan's face drained of all color. Claire covered her mouth, shaking. Margaret sobbed harder, collapsing against the dirt, the backyard filled with her broken cries. And Rex. Rex stood tall, panting, alert, unmoving. Because he had unearthed not just an envelope, not just jewelry, not just lies. He had unearthed the truth of an entire family's broken heart. And the final piece was the one secret meant to stay buried forever. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Only Margaret's sobs echoed across the yard, raw, broken, the sound of a person whose entire world of carefully crafted lies had collapsed in one afternoon. Ethan stood frozen, staring at his father's wedding ring in my hand. His eyes glistened, his jaw tight. He wasn't angry. He was devastated. "Mom," he whispered, voice breaking, "how could you? Dad wanted me to have this when I got married. He wanted me to pass it on someday. And you buried it in the dirt?" Margaret shook her head frantically. "I was going to give it back. I swear I was. I just needed time. I was afraid he'd choose her over me again." "Again?" Ethan snapped. "Mom, he didn't choose her. He loved you. You were his wife." She covered her ears as if the truth physically hurt her. "You don't understand," she cried. "After your father died, you were all I had left. When you married Claire, I felt like she was stealing you away from me. I couldn't lose both of you." "I wasn't going anywhere," Ethan replied, tears falling freely now. "And Claire never took anything from you. You pushed her away. You blamed her for things she didn't do. You set her up." His voice hardened. "And Rex exposed everything you buried." At the sound of his name, Rex stepped closer to Ethan and gently nudged his leg, as if reminding him he wasn't alone. Margaret suddenly reached for Ethan's arm. "Please," she whispered hoarsely. "You're my son. You can't turn your back on me." Ethan pulled his arm away slowly. "I'm not turning my back on you, Mom, but I am setting boundaries." She stared at him in disbelief. "You're choosing her over me." "No," Ethan said. "I'm choosing the truth, and I'm choosing my family, Claire, Emma, and the life we're building, a life you tried to sabotage." Margaret's face twisted with pain as she realized Ethan meant every word. "I need help," she whispered. "For a long time, I've needed help. I see that now." Ethan nodded. "Yes, and you're going to get it. But you're not coming back to this house until a therapist clears it. That's the boundary," Margaret gasped. "I'm your mother, and I'm a husband," he said firmly. "And Claire is my wife. She deserved better than what you did." Rex growled softly, not aggressively, but as if agreeing with Ethan's decision. Margaret stood slowly, wiping dust off her clothes with trembling hands, looking around the backyard, the dug-up dirt, the evidence of her lies, the dog who had unraveled them one by one. The truth was everywhere, and she couldn't bury it again. She whispered to me as she passed, "I'm sorry, Claire." For the first time, it sounded real. Then she left through the side gate without another word. The yard felt impossibly quiet after she was gone. Ethan dropped to his knees beside Rex, wrapping his arms around the dog's thick neck. "Thank you," he whispered against Rex's fur. "You saved us." Rex sat still, accepting the embrace like he understood every word. And maybe he did. I knelt beside them both. My voice shook as I spoke. He knew from the beginning. Every time Margaret came over, he reacted. Every time something went missing, he sensed her scent in our room. And today, he dug up the truth. Ethan nodded, wiping tears away. I didn't want to believe my mother would do something like this, but Rex did, and he tried to tell us. I leaned my forehead against Rex's. "You protected me, boy. You protected our family." He licked my cheek, gentle, loyal, proud. Margaret entered therapy for obsessive attachment and controlling behavior. Slowly, she began to understand the harm she had caused. She wasn't allowed at our house unsupervised, and for the first time, Ethan didn't let guilt override boundaries. Our marriage grew stronger. Trust was rebuilt, not instantly, but steadily. And Rex became a legend at Ethan's firehouse, at Emma's school, around the neighborhood. Everyone knew him as the dog who dug up the truth, the hero who protected his family. One warm afternoon in early fall, I sat on the porch watching Emma braid flowers into Rex's collar, laughing. Ethan stepped outside, holding the wedding ring his father left him, now restored, cleaned, shining. He slid it into a small wooden keepsake box. "For our daughter," he said softly. "One day." Rex padded over, sat beside us, and looked out across the yard, the same yard where he dug up lies, secrets, and pain, to bring our family back to the surface. I rested my hand on his head. "You didn't just find what was buried," I whispered. "You saved all of us." And under the quiet golden light of sunset, Rex laid his head on my lap, finally at peace.